Welcome to this week's episode of Forgiving the Girl Inside, a Matter of the Heart. I'm your hostess, Lisa Drennon, energetic mindset mentor. That's the second time I said mentor. I don't know what a mentor is. If you know what a mentor is, let me know, because that must be a word somewhere in the language, right? But I am the energetic mindset mentor business strategist, and I have an awesome program called SOAR, seeking our authentic route to our highest potential, because you are designed for greatness and a purpose, and only you have beautiful gifts and abilities to share with everyone out there. And that's what a healing journey is all about. Forgiving the girl inside is all about connecting with your inner child and really knowing who you are so you can soar to your highest potential. So today we have the beautiful Melissa Rohlfs, who's a certified holistic health and life coach. She helps busy women get unstuck. I wish she was here like 2 years ago because I was so stuck. I didn't even know that I was stuck. That's how bad it was. Um, she helps them find freedom so they can be calm, confident, and at peace. She is committed to empowering women to be free, to be who God made them to be, like-minded sister spirits here. So thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to hear your healing journey story. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. I'm super excited to be here with you. I'm coming to you from sunny Arizona, which you might not know because I'm wearing a sweatshirt, but
Yeah,
my husband always freezes me out with air conditioning. So I always have on a sweatshirt inside. Um, but I'm a wife and a mom. We've got 2 kids. And as you said, I'm a holistic health and life coach, helping busy women find freedom and get unstuck.
yeah. Where did they have to get unstuck from?
Whatever is holding them back. Like you said, like there were so many areas of my life that I was stuck in. I didn't even know, right? Like, because all you know is what you come from, and you think that that's how it is. And then it's not until you realize, hey, there could be something else, or there could be something more, or there could be something different. And that kind of changes the trajectory. So it can be mindset, it can be health, it can be wellness, it can be parenting, really almost anything, because we all have our stuck.
Yeah, and it's so funny because especially as moms, we're spinning all these plates and we feel like we have to, well, I should say me, I feel like I have to go after certain things. And, one of the things that helped me was ULA, and ULA is about balancing 7 key areas. And it looks like you have a lot of similarities in your program. So before you hit your, before your journey of you being in this chaotic sense, I can just picture like this snow, I'm gonna say a sandstorm since you're in Arizona and you're like near the desert, right? But when you see the sandstorms and everything's just, you can't, and then the sand gets in your eyes and you're kind of like, you are stuck. You're like in this pit and you can't move. So tell us about the frustration and the chaotic experience that you personally had.
Gosh, I think the moment that kind of like brought me to my knees was about 11 years ago. And we had a newborn baby who wasn't sleeping through the night. So I'm exhausted. We had a 2-year-old who had some undiagnosed food allergies and some sensory challenges. So she was kind of wild and out of control, which I just thought was normal toddler behavior. My husband was traveling for work. And then on top of all of that, I had gotten diagnosed with PTSD from childhood trauma. So it was like the perfect storm, and everything felt foggy. It felt frustrating. I was angry a lot. I was tired. I was not showing up as the person that I wanted to be to my family or who I wanted to be in the world. It was very, very frustrating because I knew that I was here and I wanted to get here, but I didn't know how. So I had to figure that out.
Yeah, and that's really challenging too to deal with all that. The lack of sleep really plays havoc on our bodies, our minds. I know I struggled with that. In January, I had a full hysterectomy, and then I had this shoulder issue where I tore my tendon. All I know is I woke up from surgery and my left shoulder hurt, and I wasn't sleeping, and I was trying to work, and I was going to school, and I'm like, I can't function. So that alone. So can you tell us, if you're willing to share some more about the PTSD?
Yeah, of course. So it was from childhood trauma. Part of my story is my father was murdered when I was 2. And so I never knew my dad growing up. And I'm from a small town in the Midwest, and everybody knows everybody. And it was almost like I feel like everybody knew, but nobody talked about it. Like it was the elephant in the room. And maybe they didn't know. Actually, I don't know what they knew because I was 2, but it was just this weird, like growing up, not knowing who your dad was, hearing things about him, not knowing where you came from. My mom remarried. And my stepdad didn't adopt me because he wanted to honor my grandparents, because my dad was an only child and he wanted to keep my maiden name, which I think shows them so much respect. But I think as a child in that place, it created a lot of confusion and chaos. And who is my family and where do I fit in? And everybody else has the same last name and I don't. And it just was kind of a hard experience to navigate as a child.
Wow, yeah, and that is because we want to fit in and we don't want to be different, especially kids are so cruel with their, well, why is your name different? I had an adopted
Mhm.
brother growing up and they're always like, well, you guys don't look anything like each other. And my mom would always say, well, he's special, I chose him. And I'm like, well, I'm special because I'm the only girl. You know? But it's so important to us to fit in, especially with our own family. So I'm so sorry that you experienced that. That must have been, did you ever find out like all the details or the particulars?
I did, but it's so interesting because the other piece of that, Lisa, was I knew the story that my mom shared. And I think, she was on her own healing journey and doing the best that she could. And so I think her perspective was very different from other people's. So part of my story is as an adult going to people who knew my dad at various times in his life, whether they were, fraternity brothers from college or people that he went to high school with, and just saying, who was my dad? Like, who do you know my dad as? So I could have this whole picture of him and not just the story that I knew from my mom or my grandma, but just really kind of understand who he was according to other people, because it was just a very like slim version of what I knew of him.
Yeah, yeah. And they say, well, like when you grow up, especially girls, they need their dad. You just need that connection and just to help yourself establish healthy relationships. So when you realized that something was missing in your life, what made you want to go and figure it all out and start implementing the tools that you used, and what were the tools that you did use to help?
It was really my kids. I knew that what I was doing and how I was parenting and who I was being wasn't what they needed or deserved, but I didn't know a different way. And so part of my journey was I had started meeting with a life coach, and she also had PTSD and was also a clinical social worker. And so through the start of our coaching, we started off in a coaching relationship, and then she said, I think we might need to switch gears here because I think you might have PTSD and we might need to go from coaching to counseling and kind of work through the healing of the past. So part of that was meeting with a naturopath and, learning what was happening in my body, from a chemical perspective, and really understanding how to get free and healthy from what had happened on every sense of the word.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. What was your most impactful strategy that you implemented?
I think realizing the impact that food has on mood. I think for me, I only associated food with weight. And so I had a very warped relationship with food, in that I would, eat to stuff my feelings. I would eat to feel good. I would not eat to lose weight. Like it was not a healthy relationship at all. But when I realized the impact that food has on mood and overall health, my daughter's behavior with the sensory challenges, that changed everything, because I'm like, oh my gosh, more people need to know about this. Like, this is incredible. So I think that was my biggest aha from my journey.
Yeah, is there a certain group of trigger foods for people, or is it dependent upon each person?
Yeah, each person is different. One size doesn't work for all. For me specifically, gluten is a really big trigger. Dairy is a big trigger. Sugar is a big trigger. Um, Processed foods that have a lot of chemicals and additives, those are a big trigger. I think across the board, it's safe to say that gluten, sugar, and processed foods are not great for most people. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm definitely about eating whole foods and as clean and organic and fresh as possible. Obviously, everybody has, budgets and whatnot. So you just do the best you can.
Yeah, and they have lots of alternatives. I mean, especially like at the farm markets and stuff where you can choose healthy. And I tend to eat the same foods all the time. So, like, we're empty nesters now. So my husband and I will cook a meal or last 3 days. And
Mhm.
it's like, so you don't really spend a lot anymore because you don't have this huge family with growing kids who eat you out of house and home, so to speak. So yeah, it's a lot different cooking for yourself for two versus a family of four or five or something like that. But yeah, I definitely noticed the triggers with food. And I'd heard too, I was in a biblical counseling class for my studies, and the teacher was talking about, there's a book, I don't know if you've read it, Potatoes Instead of Prozac, I believe is the title. Have you ever heard of it?
No, but it sounds great.
Yeah, I never read it, but the title was interesting to me because I don't like potatoes. I like sweet potatoes, but I'm not a potato person. Um, so it was interesting to me that if you, this potato, the whatever's in the potato, the vitamins, minerals, and all of that helps calm you down. And if you eat it at a certain time, it would help you. And then it's just like I heard kiwi, when you eat it right before you go to bed, helps you sleep, helps you calm, and has, whatever you need to do that. And I thought, oh, this is interesting. But what's even more cool is that God gave us all of these natural foods and plant-based foods and said, here, eat these because this is going to help you. And guess what? I provided for you. And my husband and I go back and forth about this, about how, how did white flour come about? Because when I was growing up, my grandma, my mom made everything from scratch. It wasn't until probably like the late 70s we started getting introduced to TV dinners and things like that. And I remember every Friday night, my grandpa would make homemade pizza from the dough, from scratch, everything, right? And that's what we ate every Monday, or Friday night rather. And I was thinking, well, where did all this refined stuff come from, and this GMO and all that? It's because people don't depend on God; they depend on themselves, thinking, "Oh, we're going to run out. There's all these people. We can't feed them, so let's modify it so we can expand it, so we can grow more." It's like, stop. Like when you were a kid, I never heard of peanut allergies. Did you?
No.
Nobody. So now I have a granddaughter, 10 months old, and a friend that I disciple. Her daughter's also 10 months old. They both got peanut butter at 6 months old. I'm like, what? Peanut
Yeah,
butter?
why?
Oh, because of allergies. So doctors are figuring if you introduce it young enough, they won't be allergic to it. I'm like, are you kidding me? That I've never heard of this.
Neither.
So yeah, she eats peanut butter. These two little girls eat peanut butter. They're both like, I think they're like 6 days apart. So I think that's kind of cool. But anyways, I was like, wow, okay. So where does this allergy type thing come from? Is it because we have so many preservatives and additives in our foods that we created this problem? Or like, it's just so fascinating. That would be like a really good someday. It's not my thing, but maybe you're passionate about it. You can kind of study it. I don't know why I even brought that up. Somebody needs to hear that, because else I
Well,
wouldn't have said it.
because I think you're right, Lisa. I mean, I think we live in a toxic world. There's toxins in our food, in our air, in our water, and we serve a non-toxic God, let's be real honest. And so how are we
Yeah.
called to steward our temples? How are we called? I think about Daniel, and I think about the Daniel fast, and I think about how his diet is what set him apart. And I think there's something to that we can apply yet today.
Yeah. And it's all a healing journey. And if you think about when Daniel was pulled from his home, he was basically kidnapped,
Mhm.
brought to this home, forced to do this job. Thankfully he was in a good position. So he was, showed his skills, and he was appointed a great position. And then he's like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to eat that food. I need to be obedient to my God, not to you." And I imagine, if I could just picture this, I watched The Chosen, and it helps me like visualize things. But the guard said, "Oh, you have to eat this or else." And
Mhm.
he's like, "Well, let me think about this. Let's negotiate here. How about we try this? And if I'm not strong, then I'll eat your food." I love that. That's, and that's what we need to do to our bodies. Like, you might say this is good for me, but I'm going to try it this way. And if it doesn't work, then I'll try it your way. I just said that earlier because they wanted to give me hormone replacements because of the full hysterectomy. And I'm like, no. And my doctor's like, well, why? I go, because they're synthetics and I don't want to put synthetics in my body. And he's like, well, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to use oils. I'm going to use Young Living essential oils, period. That's it. That's what I'm going to do. He's like, all right, well, let me know how that works out for you. So I went for my follow-up, and he's like, you're doing fantastic. I said, yes, I am, because I'm using natural things. And
Absolutely.
I eat clean. I do have ice cream though, so my sugar comes from my ice cream, because I don't like the healthy ice cream.
No, it's all good.
You got to treat yourself, right?
Yes, you do.
I told my husband we have to figure out how to make a healthy ice cream, but the only I don't know if you ever had ice cream with maple syrup in it, with real
Mhm.
maple syrup as a
Yeah.
natural sweetener. So I
Yep.
don't know.
I have
Maybe
a
someday
recipe
we'll.
with bananas. It's pretty good if you want it. I'll send it to you.
yeah, definitely. Maybe our listeners can have it too. It'll be like the
Okay.
freebie. Banana ice cream. That's awesome because that would be so good. Because I'm like
Yeah.
not a yogurt fan. I was shocked at how much sugar is in yogurt. I
Mhm.
talk about a trigger thing. Like I was eating yogurt because I thought it was healthy
Yep.
for my
Yep.
gut, and I kept gaining weight. I'm like, why is this yogurt? And then I read I was borderline diabetes, and I read the
Mhm.
label because I had to eat everything less than 10 grams. And sugar yogurt had like, I don't know, the one I was eating had like 15 grams. I'm like, what? Where's the sugar coming from? So why do they sneak sugar in all this stuff?
Because it's addictive. It is addictive. It's 9 times more addictive than cocaine.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
And it
That is
creates a
crazy.
release in the brain where the dopamine, so we feel like we need to have more and more to get that fix.
Yeah. And then we keep going in this circle on this hamster wheel. Wow. So with your expertise with this relationship with food, how do you break that cycle?
Well, I think you have to get to the root of the problem, right? Like, so for me, had the broken relationship with food because I was eating to stuff my feelings or to lose weight. Like that was my mindset with food. So I think we have to shift our belief with food and ask, what is my goal? I think that's the first step is, what is my goal? What is my purpose? What am I wanting to do? And then come up with a plan to do that. And most people don't want to stuff their feelings. Most people don't want to, have to rely on food for energy. Most people don't want to starve themselves to lose weight. It's just what they know. So we have to retrain how we think about food and our relationship with it and its purpose in our lives.
Wow, that makes so much sense. It all has to do with mindset,
Mm-hmm.
and thinking like, why do I need this nutrient? And why am I stuffing my feelings, or am I like, is this something good for me? Yeah, I used food as an unhealthy coping mechanism on my healing journey way too long, from like 1986 to 2014, 15, 2016 was when I started my food, when I realized food was one of my unhealthy coping mechanisms. And I share about it in my book, Forgiving the Girl Inside, Finding Balance, Freedom, and Fun in Your Life. And it was therapeutic to talk about it, to heal from it. Because, I didn't realize how my past defined my present because I never healed from it. I never began that healing journey until 2013. What advice would you give somebody that's turning to food, that's turning to these, all these different unhealthy coping mechanisms to try to hide some trauma that they may have experienced way back when they don't even realize it started that long ago?
Yeah, I think the first step to do is to really get curious and replace judgment with curiosity and ask, why am I doing this, or what am I looking for in this experience? Because when we pause and we ask hard questions, that's where the aha comes. And I think the hard thing with food, Lisa, is that it's legal, it's socially acceptable. I mean, candy is thrown out at parades. Like, it is not something that you can abstain from and live, right? Like, we need food to live. So I think it's so hard because it's something that we need to enjoy and thrive and live healthy, purposeful lives. But I think the best thing to do is get curious and ask yourself those questions. What am I looking for? Or why am I turning to this?
Yeah. And just think about it before you actually act upon it. Yeah.
Because we get so caught up in that habit of, oh, I'm just going to have some ice cream after dinner, or, oh, I've had a long day at work. I'm just going to grab whatever, like we just get so caught up in the habit that we don't stop and pause. And that's really where I think the journey begins.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us more. How did you get into the coaching? The Free to Be coaching is your program. Tell us a little
Mhm.
bit more about that, how you started it and what it involves.
Yeah, so I knew after my journey, it's interesting because I ended up losing quite a bit of weight on my journey. And everybody was like, "Oh, you've lost so much weight. You look so great. Can you help me lose weight?" And I'm like, this is not about weight. Like, this is about healing. This is about wholeness. This is about being free to be who God called me to be. This is about identity. This is about a healed relationship with myself, with my body, with food. It's about so much more than that. And I knew that there wasn't anything out there that would give people that other than what I did. So I had to recreate my journey and be like, okay, how did I do this? And then I had to find a program that would offer something that was, similar enough to certify me, because I feel it's so important to have credentials and have that background if you are coaching people. And so that's just my conviction. And so I went to school and I got certified, and now I'm helping other women who are where I was, because there's a lot of moving pieces. It's not just, eat a salad and lose weight. It's the mindset. It's figuring out how to listen to your body. It's healing from the past hurts. Like, there's kind of some big pieces that need to be addressed.
Yeah, absolutely. And for anyone who's struggling with weight, think about when you're eating. Are you eating because your body's hungry, or because you're trying to stuff an emotion and something just happened that wants you to go reach for that, candy bar or that ice cream or whatever it is that you're turning to? So yeah, it's such a beautiful way to help others and realize, and I think the mindset piece is really starting to become the center, like the crux of all the coaching programs, because they say it's 85%. I disagree. I say it's 100%. I say it is the crux of everything that we do. And, scripture tells us to captivate our thoughts and make them obedient to Christ. There's a reason that's there. And to give thanks, and, give thanks in all circumstances. It's like, okay, so regardless of what you're going through, and not to beat yourself up if you if you do overindulge, or you do, stuff that emotion. No, you're not alone. There are so many of us out here who needed help and ignored it. And I was on a call today earlier with a client who's like, I just need the right strategy. I need to know, they're having a hard time defining their niche. And I need the right strategy, and I don't know which direction to go to. And it's like, we've had this conversation 4 times. God is giving you the strategy. Just stop it. Get out of your way. I had to do a live on Instagram after I got off the phone with her, because it was just like, stop it. Don't ask God to give you the strategy and then ignore him when he gives you the strategy. Pay attention. Listen to people that you are surrounded with. When somebody comes into your path, it's for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So you're listening to this podcast, maybe you're watching it on YouTube. There's a reason why you came across it. So pay attention. Don't overthink it, and just listen and make the next move. What is it Melissa said earlier about knowing what your goal is? I tell my clients, what's your dream? Reverse engineer it. You cannot accomplish anything if you don't know what you want to be, where you want to go. What's your why? Like, why do you want to eat healthy? Because you want a healthy body. Maybe you want to live a long time, to be there for your kids, your grandkids. You want to leave a beautiful legacy, right? What's your why? So, Melissa, what advice can you give? If you could give one piece of advice to somebody who's listening right now that's really struggling with food as an addiction, to cover up an emotion, some emotional hurt or pain, what would you tell them?
I think you've got to get to the root of that, because no plan, no program, no exercise, nothing you can do is going to address that. And you're just going to be like a sinking, like a passing ship, because here's the root problem. Here's the wound. Here's the hurt. Here's whatever that needs to be worked through. And that's why this is coming out this way. And if you're doing all these things to address this, but you're not dealing with this, you're not going to have the transformation that you want. So do the work.
Yeah. Get to the root cause of the problem. Well, thank you so much, Melissa, for sharing. In the description, we will have links to connect with you, to find out more about your program, and to make that decision just to be on this healing journey. So thank you again for being with us. And if you are listening either on one of the podcast sites or on YouTube, again, somebody who needs to hear this, please share it with them. When you have something as good as this, To Be Free coaching, right? That's the name.
Free to be.
Free to be coaching will help you get to the root cause of why you're turning to an unhealthy coping mechanism. And this is something that you are listening to now because you need to hear it. So be sure to share it. And remember, every day is a healing journey, and it's all a matter of the heart.